What's up, guys? It's kind of been a minute since I've just kind of spoken to the camera. I feel like this is a good time to do so. I just got back from my trip in Costa Rica and I'm feeling like I'm just getting moving here again. Back to some old locations that have been kind of recurring themes as to me dividing myself from the multitude, and I think that in hopes there is the idea that I think there is more. Funny thing about the difference is that in that way it kind of makes everything add up. Little bit of word play for you there. I don't get my gear to basically work perfectly like this every time. You'd know if you did anything that required basically an extraneous amount of coverings and of tools. It's always about sort of the switch. Everything is held together by a trigger, which kind of allows there to be this idea, I guess you could say, that some part of you escapes it at the same time. Maybe again that through the summation of all these things, then you can find a difference, sort of like a parallel play of my going outward. I then almost sort of am lost in the claw. But then again, I think that finding that little pull, or whatever you want to call it, I think can allow you to sort of recognize a shadow in the darkness. Somehow you know it's still you. And I think in that way you can kind of equate this idea of knowledge with wisdom. This idea of freedom with respect. And this road that I've been on has changed quite a bit for me in these last 2 years. I've undergone quite the transformation. Ultimately, I think I can say more. I think I can rest more. And I think I am ultimately available for more. Maybe success, wealth, even richness can be a talent. recognizing power. And again, connecting through the difference. I ran a lot over that trip. Every morning I got up, and man, what a change of scenery. But you know what? I do think that I have traveled enough to acknowledge both the foreign scape and the familiar scape. Held at edge with the idea of the self. And dreams. Ideas of eternities. I gave out books throughout the entire trip. I've amassed quite a collection over these last 2 years of handwritten books. And basically, you know, like a good boy who has listened to his grandparents going into the woods, I left my trail up to the peak, I would say. I left a note and a handwritten book inside the dressers and the nightstands of things. Stuff that you'd be hard to come by. Here, less of it than even gold. Unless that's what it is. So I did that throughout the entire trip until I finally got to a location that was actually traveled enough for there to be a public book stand. And I kind of found it fitting. I put my final 2 right there. But I did that the entire time. Sort of like a huge buildup of power. And then I almost felt like a very scientific release of that power. If science truly is simply about being able to hold space, basically. I feel like I was able to hold some very unique spaces in that sense. I'm gonna have to make a video just with all the workouts that I did. Like I said, I ran quite a bit. Sometimes like 8 miles in the morning along a beach, which I think added another challenge, you know. For all its beauty, it's about as sturdy ground as snow. And you just sink and kick up all this stuff with each step, but it's kind of fun running in new areas, some slums, and some in a lot of ways deserts in terms of the populace there. Just, I guess, with how far out I really was, even with such a tropical bearing, you can still go where no one else does. Came back and my house is kind of in shambles. everybody kind of took the opportunity to, I guess, go through my stuff from one perspective, but from the perspective that I'm hearing the most of is just that I'm being elevated. So just got to work with the change as it comes. Make sure that I can sort of squat jump up to my next spot so that I know that it's not just some finicky peak or point. Yeah, we're out here. And yeah, I mean, I feel like I can sort of take a breather for a minute, but because I really did have, seriously, you don't historically ever hear of people going that far basically with that exotic of material, with that image, and making everything round. And even in the place where you're found, you're still very far, far away. Well, all right, guys, I'll see you around. Bye.